我们下面西游回忆录的话
Good, so let us continue with our class on the journey to the
前面
West.
就是讲到了金刚萨埵的
Previously,
佛
we've
像
already talked about the
水晶的
beginning
金
of
刚
the statue of
金刚杵
Vajrasattva and then the
佛以自
crystal-made
训
Vajra
这
as
三
well
个呢
as
就是
the
叫
text
做
that
是
is called
三
the
罪
soul
就
air
是
of
佛
the
法的
Doctrine
三罪
Tantra. These three
以
are
后
called
在
the
寺院里
three
面如果有这
supremes
三个
of
现在我们不是有一
Buddhism.
个金刚萨埵像
In
吗以
monasteries,
后有的话呢
I think it would be the
有那
best
个水晶
to
做的金刚
have
杵
all
就
three
艺
of
术
them
高的
to
就
be
是这样的
represented.
当然
We
太高
currently
的话
have
可能比
the
金刚萨
statue
埵
of
还高的话不一
Vajrasattva.
定好看
In the
但是
future, maybe we
还有那
can
个用金
also
粉就是所
have
写的那个
a
四
Vajra
寸的那
that is
个
made
就
of
是那个什
crystal
么以自训
in
啊
the
就这
size
三个呢
of
就是
the
叫这
arm
个
length or forearm
佛
length.
法之最就是
Of
这
course,
三个
it
应该
shouldn't be
放在一
too
个玻
tall,
璃盒啊
otherwise,
就是这样
if
的
it's
话
taller
有
than
的在寺
Vajrasattva
院呢
himself,
就是这
it,
些里
it
面
probably
放的话
won't
这
look
个
as
缘起还是
beautiful.
很重要的
On top of
这
that,
个
we
有
need
在
to
看
have
我
a
们那
gold
个
powder
前书前的观音菩萨的像的话
made
呢就是
into
可能
ink
已
and
经
then
应该发过来了吧
write
就是可能
into
就原来我们
the
讲那个宝王
Tantra
经的时候
of,
呢
or
就是
to,
当时
to
是
copy
大
the
家
Tantra,
这
to
个
write
发
the
愿
Tantra
但这次
that
这
is
个
the,
倒是不
the
用
soul
请
air
也
of
不
the
用什么
Doctrine
授
Tantra.
签了这
If
些
you
不然
can
到
have
时候
all three of
到时候
them
买不
in
到
a
了这样就不
glass
好说
casket or glass
到时候应该
display
如果
box
需
and
要
then
再
place it
说
in
嘛
a
就是现在这个
monastery, that
不
would
要
be
这个受
a
什么
very
签的来的话那
auspicious
就是如果做不到的话那也是
condition
它
or
是这个一
auspicious
种专用的就是
origination.
然后也不敢用在其他地方也是比较麻烦的就是
Also,
先支持这
when
个
we
就
were
注意看一下
studying
就可
the
以
baskets
然后今
display,
天呢我们继
we
续讲
talked
法王
about
如意宝的
making
那
the
个那天18
statue
号晚
of
上
a
的这个
thousand
课
of the
就以法
Avalokiteshvara
王寺
of
一
a
节
thousand
课
hands
这
and
个
a
我们
thousand
就
eyes.
讲的话可
But
能有
now
好
I
的
don't
好
think
几
we
天
need
晚上
to
了
collect more money,
佛经
otherwise
当
it
中
would
也
be
说是
difficult
佛法
to
分为国
make
气
sure
还
that
有
those
修气
money
啊
all
还有
goes
这个
to
教
this
气
particular
还有这个
statue.
维持心想请分4个方面的
Let us
其中
continue
呢就是
with
国
our
气和
class.
这个修气呢已
Also,
经过
according
了
to
国气
Sutrayana's
的是获得阿罗汉
Sutrayana
的国位也
teaching,
是多的
the Buddha
当然
Dharma
修
will
气
go
的是
through
通
four
过修
stages
行
of
呢就是
duration: the
获得
period of
国位也是
fruition,
很多
accomplishment,
那现在呢就是
transmission,
真
and
至
the
于是一
symbolic
个教气这个后
representation.
面也会还要
The
讲一
first
下
two
这个
periods
然后
have
除了
already
讲法
come
和
and
文法以
gone.
外
Now
呢就
we're
是
in
先
the
宗的
middle
法几乎
of
都
the
已经
period
这
of
个
transmission,
因为
during
很
which
多都
time,
就是他
besides
的这种
teaching
就依
and
靠先宗
listening to
马
the
上就是
Dharma,
得成就的这
there
样
is
的就
barely any
很少
other
的就是他
forms
几乎一模的
of
话
practice
就
more
就
profound
就
in
比较少
Sutrayana
就
tradition.
跟以前相比较跟国气和修气相比较起来的话
Well,
比较少
comparatively
就
speaking,
中的佛法
the
而言呢
numbers of
佛法
people
的
who
威
can
力呢就
attain
是也是这
realization
个那框以
to
下
the
就
first
是
two
就还
periods
是日语
are
呢就
much
是
less
现
now,
在慢慢就
especially
就下
relying
降
to
了
the
站在公正
Sutrayana
的立场
tradition.
上考虑真的是这样比如
Generally
王
speaking,
心
the
莲华生
blessings
大
of
寺大班
sutras
子的
keep
布玛门他们
declining.
两位
This
呢
is true
不
when we
仅是
observe
印
with
度
an
就是
unbiased
祖
view.
遍
In
了
the
印
past,
度
the
的
Guru
东南
Rinpoche
西北
and
的
the
所
great
有的地
Pandita
方
Vimala
而
Mitra
且呢后
traveled
来也
across
是
the
来到了
entire
这个
land
藏
of
地
India
但是那
and
天
then came to
也
the
讲
land
了
of
布玛门
Tibet.
扎克
We had
布玛门扎
already
来过3
talked
次啊就
about
有这种
this
说法
part
莲花
of the
生大寺
history.
呢那
It
天
is said
讲
that
了就是
Vimala
公
Mitra
元
came to
770 年
Tibet
的
for
时
3
候呢
times,
就来
and
藏地
Guru
按
Rinpoche
照
came
僧巴
to
佛教
the
士的
land of
这些有
Tibet
些事可能
in the year
再三说一下就有时候
770,
也会有
according
用
to
那么
Samba
即便
history.
是既
I
然如
am
此啊
simply
就是
repeating
大
it
圆
because
满呢
I'm
就
sure
是
it
当
will
时
be
也是
useful,
没有
will
就
come
是
in
广
handy
泛的
later.
弘扬开了他所
But
谓的
even
广泛
so,
呢
the
就
great
应该是
perfection
范
was
围
unable
因
to
为当时
flourish
印度也
widely
是
at
比
that
较小
time.
嘛在藏地尼泊尔可能仅仅是这
India,
几个地方吧就这几个地
Nepal,
方
and
而就
Tibet,
不像那个现
those
在一样的就
are
是全世
rather
界的是有这个30-40 个
those
国
are
家
the
就是有各种
main
说法都有
areas
从这
where
个当今这
Tibetan
个时代
Buddhism
呢就是
was
单单是藏地
propagated,
也有
rather
很
than
多的
now
这个
over 30
上师
countries
呢
it
就
is
是
said
到国外就是
that it
讲解
has
说法
the
就是予以这个
Tibetan
观
Buddhism
印的
present
就是
in
确
their
实
countries.
藏地因
But
为在
now
那
many
个
Tibetan
60年
lamas
代的时
give
候呢
empowerments and
就是
teachings
有一批高
abroad.
僧大德呢，就是通过这个
Back
不
in
丹
the
啊，就是
60s, a
通过
group
西
of
晋啊，通过
great
尼泊啊，
lamas
通过印度啊，
through
然后呢，就
Bhutan,
是去这
Sikkim,
个世界上的各
Nepal,
个国家
India,
吧，就包
and
括欧
then
美
went to
也好，就
different
是
countries,
还是这个
including
东南亚
Europe
的这个
and
很多
United
国家去
States,
了。
as well
那么
as
这样的话呢，就是
East,
后来
Southeast
这些这个
Asia,
上师们的话
in
呢，就是
different
在别的
countries
地方
in
灌顶
those
啊、讲经
areas.
啊，也
And
这个
those
范围呢，
teachers,
确
those
实
lamas
就是
would
比以
bestow
前就是还
empowerments
是
and
扩
give
大了
Dharma
好多。
teachings. teachings.
以
Indeed,
世界第一
the
强
Dharma
国
then
就是美
spreaded
国为例
much
的话呢
wider.
大圆满的这个法呢
But
在这
even
块
so,
土
the
地上
great
呢就是
perfection
普
was
遍的
unable
这
to
个兴盛
flourish
确
widely
实
at the time.
美
But
国
now
很多的
Tibetan
这
Lamas
个
give
中心呢
empowerments
就是
and
也
teachings
是
abroad.
就
Take
是有这
example
个
of
密麻
America,
巴
the
的
most
这个中
powerful
心是非
nation
常
in the
多的
world.
就
The
是
great
齐家寺
perfection
林呢
has
就是越
become
来越强大
prevalent
的一
in
个
this
越
land.
强的一个象
This
征
is a
啊
sign
就是
that the
这个
blessings of this practice
可以
has
这么
become
说吧
more
就
and
是
more
当时是
powerful.
应该是美国也
We
算
can
是
definitely
不
say
过
so.
现在也是包括
The
科
United
技啊就是
States
经济
back
啊就是
then,
这些
also
上
I
面的
think
话也可以说
including now,
强国当
in
时当
terms
时
of their
上个世纪90年代
technological
的话更是
development
这样
and
现在
economical
他们可能也
development,
就是
they
有
are
点这个
considered
衰
as
败但是
a
总的来
very
讲的
much
话呢可能
advanced
现在很多
country
国家也是就是就总的来说
and
可能
very
包括
powerful
是各方面
nation.
都不一定比得上如果看看在
Even
在座的
including
各
now
位
many
的这个
countries,
信
if
心
they
这
were
个
to
是应该
compare
是
to the
信心
United
吧就
States
是信
in
仰的信
various aspects,
信心呢就是也可以
I
推
think
测
United
的
States
带
is
出来
still
就
considered as
是
rather powerful.
像比你们就是对众的佛法有
If we
信
observe
心
people
对智慧
here,
的藏
we
传佛
can
教也有
also
信心
realize the
尤其
blessings
是
of
对大
Dzogchen
圆
based
满
on
呢
your
就是
attitude and
有特别就
mentality.
是大的这
I
种
can
这个
confer
信戒
that
力
you
了
must have
就是
devotion to Buddha
西
Dharma
方
in
人还
general
是
and a
很对
specific
大圆满
faith
有这
in
个
Tibetan
有信
Buddhism.
心就是对藏传
I
佛教
think
也有信心
the Westerners
这就是你
definitely
们相信当中
demonstrate
得到大圆满加持的前
faith
兆
and
也
devotion
说明呢
to
就是你们
Buddhism,
是大圆
especially
满
to
的说法
Tibetan
器
Buddhism,
你们呢
and
也是这样就是
especially
认
when
为
it
的吗
comes
就是
to,
可
in
能当
particular,
时
when
往
it
往问
comes
那个
to
夏
the
威夷的这些人
teachings
就
of
是
great
夏威夷的这
perfection.
些人确实夏威
I
夷
feel
是
that people in Hawaii
我觉得
indeed
是在哪里的
have
人的
lots
这
of
种信
faith.
心呢还是很好的不管是哪里的什么这个
I think
住的
their
人
faith
就是
are
好像
really
那个
quite
这
good.
种信心对大圆满的信心也是特别大的法王当时也这样讲的
They have
那
such
我像
great
我们
faith
的
to
就
the
是
great
汉地的
perfection
这个道
teachings.
友们的话呢
Pons
也
Rinpoche
其实是
also
对大圆
spoke
满是
about
信心
that
很
back
大
then.
的就是我那天也不是讲了
Also,
嘛
I
就是
think
现在
all of the
观
hand
顶的时候我
practitioners
们
over
非要
here
报名不然的
have
话不报名的
great
话呢人特别多
devotion
就
to
是
great
所以
perfection.
我们也是
The other
不管
day,
是
the
观
other
顶也
day,
好
since
降
we
密法也
were
好
going
没
to
办
have
法我们并不是
empowerment,
心很
I
黑
have
就是不是
stated
这样的
that
但是确实
we
现在
had
这个世
to
界
keep
现在
the
这样的这种
empowerment
这个
as a
气氛下
secret.
呢
If
就不
not,
得
if
不
we
这
do
样
not
的
do so,
否则的
then
话呢我们
under the
校方位
current
的这个
circumstances,
饭
the
碗的
current
话呢就是也没有办法顺利的就
atmosphere,
是就
if we
用
do
上
not
就是
keep
所以说只能
empowerments
这样的就是也
as a
如果我们
secret,
就是
we
现在包
won't
括
be
通过
able
网
to
络通过这样
smoothly
的话那多少个人就
host
是
such
多少个
events.
想得的人都是
Nowadays,
特别
there
特
are
别多想得
many
个观点
people who
想
wish
得
to
个
receive
引导
Dharma
法就是
teachings
不要
and
说大圆满的
empowerments
连我
over
们这
here
个智慧
or
白
through
论的
internet,
想听的人都是很多的
as well
不
as
过我们这边的人呢
receiving
就是就
instructions.
经常听就是也无所谓的就是
Not
我
just
就肯定
great
是我在这
perfection.
里
Many
肯定是
people
听
really
的就
wish
像
to receive
拉萨
the
的那个妇
direct
女呢从来没
transmission
有
of the
见过诸
teaching
佛像
of
一样的
100
就是
verses of
就自己呢
wisdom.
就是就无所谓的但如果别人的话呢就是好像他的一生
Maybe
当中
to
就是
us,
听过一
we
节课
are
两
too
节课我
accustomed
都经
to
常这
what
样
we
说的
have.
我以前
We
什
take
么
it
20
very
年
much for
前就是在
granted,
你面
just
前听
as
过
a
一节
Lhasa
课
woman would
在
take
20年前
the
30年
jewel
前
Buddha
就是我在你
statue
面
for
前听过一
granted.
节课我还有另外一个大的面前听过一节课
However,
就是所
people
以对
outside
他的一个一生
who's
来讲呢
not
就是听一节课是很奢侈的
who doesn't
就
have
是
such
很奢华
opportunity
的
to
就是可以
receive the
这么
Dharma
讲的
teachings
但
over
我们
here,
呢好像是听
they
一节课不要
would
说听100
often
节课
speak
的话
about
呢
how
就
they had
是凡
received
是这个
a Dharma teaching right under
就
the Dharma
我
throne
很
of
厉害
so
我
and
还
so great
听
master
课呢就是自己对自
20
己
or 30
有
years
这样
ago.
的
They still
其实
remember that one
不
particular
管怎么
class
样
they
就
had
是对西
received
九大
face
圆满的就是
facing
这
face,
个还是有信心的标准
face to
你说
face.
是有大圆满的什么法
And
的话
that
呢就是
particular
那有
class
些人
becomes
骑着
such
摩
a
托车半
luxury
夜
in
3
their
点的
life.
时候就是翻山越岭啊
Also, there are
然
lots
后
of
呢就
people
是
who
八
would
仙
take
过海各
great
省各县
risks and
神
take
通
those
就是然
motorbike
后有
rides
些是化
to
钱
come
有些是
over
那个线下神通
mountain routes, which is really dangerous to get here and receive Dharma teachings. And various people use various ways to get into Laronggar to receive Dharma teachings. But I have to say, motorcycle rides and these kinds of dangerous risks should be avoided. We should try our best to avoid it. It is not safe at all. I had also told it to the local authorities because that contributes to the
这样的，凡是这个大家就是愿意就是听说的话呢，即使修的不一定很好，但是愿意借这个法的话呢，这个也是一个信心，这个是非常好的。从小小的这个藏地学院而言，虽然人们呢就是对这个现代的科技之类的不是特别了解的，甚至这个知识渊博的人也不多，对世界法的这些知识渊博的也不一定会多。但是因为居家子的这些深深大圆满的
few erudite scholars of worldly knowledge. However, due to the prevalence of the profound great perfection that carries great blessings, a great number of Tibetan lamas have been spreading the Dharma and especially the great perfection in various countries across the world. Indeed, wherever you go, you would be able to see that people usually have faith to the practitioners or to the lamas. But of course, there are various kinds of negative situations as well. For example, even there are people in Hollywood would dance with the Tibetan robes and Tibetan shawl, Tibetan monk's shawl. But in general, majority of people very much are delighted about seeing the representations of Tibetan Buddhism, especially when it comes to great perfection. People tend to be quite joyous. So just from this point, we can see that the Mahayana teachings, the great perfection in particular, are of inconceivable blessings and merit. Again, some of you may wonder, in the past, the yogis of great perfection all flew to the land of Vidyadharas without leaving their physical bodies behind. They accomplished rainbow bodies and now dwell in pure lands. But why the great perfection masters of the present day, such as Dudram Rinpoche, Dugwa Khyentse Rinpoche, left their physical bodies behind without transforming them into light? Well, indeed, there were great numbers of masters would fly to Pure Land without leaving their physical bodies behind. And then Phuntsok Rinpoche replied by saying, in fact, there are two reasons to explain why these two great masters' bodies did not transform completely into rainbow light. One important reason is that they could have transformed their bodies into rainbow light, but they chose to leave their bodies in the world as an object of homage for fortunate beings to generate faith. In other words, if their entire body could most benefit sentient beings, then they would leave their entire body in this world. If leaving only hair and nails would most benefit sentient beings, then they would dissolve into rainbow light except for their hair and nails. Nowadays, some lamas left their nails and hair up on nirvana, and some left their entire bodies. Whatever case, we should understand that they chose to do so because their remain would evoke beings' faith and be an object of homage, which brings great merit for beings who can make prostrations and then circumambulate around them. As a result, those beings would avoid falling into lower realms, so there is a great significance for them. In fact, not just in Tibetan tradition, for example, the sixth patriarch and also the fleshly body of certain great masters in Jiuhua Mountain. They also left their fleshly body as well, and I've heard many stories about that. And having left their fleshly body behind, it could encourage the beings to release life and various kinds of dharmic activities so that they can be benefited greatly. Now, the second reason is that if a lama has many disciples who have grave negative karma or keep impure samaya, then the lama would be contaminated to the point that the body could not completely dissolve into rainbow light. This could happen too. Initially, there are great Mahā'ati masters who could have attained rainbow body. However, because of the impure Samaya kept by the disciples and the sentient beings, and because they had already given the Mahā'ati teachings to those disciples, then such contamination would block them from having the attainment of rainbow body as well. Now you may ask, what's the difference between intentionally leaving the body in this world and not being able to dissolve the body into rainbow light? Take Dzogchen Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche as an example. Dzogchen Rinpoche was Padmasambhava himself appearing in this world in the form of a human being. Even if the entire world had been full of Samaya breakers, they could not hinder his body from dissolving into rainbow light. Similarly, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was the emanation of Khenpo Sodargye. So even if all his disciples and all sentient beings in the whole world had broken their Samaya vows, they could not obstruct a great master like him from dissolving into rainbow light. While Chusun Ditsen may appear to be like a king, however, he was a great disciple of Padmasambhava, and he was the same kind of accomplished master, just like Dakini Yeshitsogyo. And even if all the disciples were to break their Samaya vows, still such kinds of contamination would not block Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche or obstruct such a great master like him from dissolving into rainbow light. As we can see, the remains of these two great masters have been left and preserved to serve as an object of worship, offering, and circumambulation for you and other devotees. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche passed away in 1992, and his fleshly body was not kept, rather was cremated after. At time of cremation, it was said that his body also shrank. It was stated in the biography as well. And then Dzogchen Rinpoche passed away in the 80s. However, for ordinary practitioners or beginners like us, in order to accomplish the rainbow body through practicing and realizing the great perfection, we must scrutinize carefully when choosing disciples. Ponzo Rinpoche over here humbly says that he was also a beginner or an ordinary practitioner, so when it comes to choosing disciples, he has to be very careful. Ponzo Rinpoche humbly says that in order to attain rainbow body, in fact, most of the great lamas and khenpos would not want to give the teachings of Mahā'ati because it could obstruct the accomplishments of them, because there could be various kinds of people within his disciples. For that reason, those people who tend to protect their own Samaya and protect their own level of realization usually do not spread the Mahā'ati teachings so vastly and so widely. As a result, the physical body would have remained for every one of you present. I am unable to examine your mind streams, but for me it is certain that if any of my disciples violate Samaya, I would be affected and lose the chance to attain the rainbow body. In fact, in my opinion and from how I feel, is that Ponzo Rinpoche, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Dzogchen Rinpoche, they are considered as the great masters of an era. They have the same level of realization, and even if disciples, even their disciples were to break Samayas, that is not going to obstruct their level of realization nor obstruct their attainment of rainbow light body. Many Though Pontsuk Rinpoche did not attain full Rinpo body, but according to the biography, in fact, you can also see that his body shrank a lot. At that time, we all saw that the 5 Buddha crowns from his head all completely fallen down. This had been seen by many people. His body shrank a lot. Now, above is a brief introduction to the attributes of the Great Perfection, the blessings of the Great Perfection. Just by hearing teachings on the Great Perfection, even if you do not practice it diligently, Buddhahood will be attained in no more than 7 lifetimes. Once receiving empowerment and instruction, as long as wrong views toward your Lama, including disparagement and also withdrawing one's faith, does not occur, then liberation will certainly occur in the bardo just after this life. Well, it says that even if you do not practice the instructions diligently, if you do not have any quarrels with your fellow Sangha members, and if you do not disparage your Lama, withdraw your faith, then liberation is certainly going to occur in bardo just after this lifetime. On the basis of receiving Dzogchen empowerment and instruction, if a practitioner understands the meaning and applies that through earnest practice, if faith is strong, then Buddhahood can be realized within 6 months. If faith is middling, Buddhahood will occur within 7 years, and even if faith is weak, Buddhahood will be attained in no less than 12 years. After receiving empowerment and instructions, if you do not have a chance to practice, now the previous one is for the practitioners, and this part is for the ones that do not practice. As long as pure Samaya is maintained and your body always touches the text of great perfection, liberation will come about soon. Again, it is on the basis that you maintain your Samaya, not having any quarrels with your fellow Vajrayana Sangha. If a sentient being hears the teachings of the great perfection, then at the time of death, liberation will come to pass in not too long of time thereafter. Even if a text of great perfection is kept close to your pillow, and prostrations, circumambulation, or butter lamp offerings are presented to this text, then liberation will not be far away. Why is great perfection the summit of all vehicles? The great perfection transcends all 8 vehicles because anyone who sees, hears, remembers, or touches the text on this teaching will swiftly achieve Buddhahood. This is the reason the great perfection is called liberation upon hearing and contact. This is so inconceivable that from now on, as long as we do not hold wrong views towards the teacher or the teaching and never slander them, Buddhahood will soon be reached, and Samaya will have been traversed in terms of its sufferings and the cause of suffering. At that time, both body and mind will be free from all forms of suffering. Wouldn't you like that? And then all the audience started laughing and smiling. On page 59, there is a really nice photo of it. You can take a look at it. There are lots of really wonderful photos of Pontsuk Rinpoche was taken in the West, maybe because of his mood and his mind was rather quite relaxed over there, and so the photos were very expressive. And I really hope that you can watch the video and look at those photos again and again. I'm sure you will receive unusual and unique blessings from that. By remembering Pontsuk Rinpoche, we can use a different way to remember him, not just through a Dharma assembly or to have some kinds of gifts. It's just not that. Rather, wholeheartedly from the depth of our heart, we can recognize that Pontsuk Rinpoche was indeed such a great master. Though that he had left 20 years ago, he had never parted from each and every one of us, and we can definitely feel his blessings still till now.